You ever sit down at a fancy restaurant, order something way too expensive, and then get hit with the truth so raw it makes your stomach turn? That's what happened to Marcus Tate, a guy who built a fortune from nothing, only to find out his own place was serving up poison with a side of prejudice. This isn't just a story about a bad meal, it's about a napkin, a whisper, and a woman who risked everything to tell the truth. Let me take you back to a humid night in Savannah, Georgia, where Marcus, a black tech mogul worth billions, decided to play ghost in his own empire. He's 48, sharp as a tack, the kind of guy who doesn't just walk into a room, changes the air in it. Grew up in a shotgun house in Mobile, Alabama, raised by his aunt after his mom worked herself to the bone cleaning offices. His first laptop? A beat-up Dell from a pawn shop. Now, he's the head of Tate Ventures, with stakes in AI startups, ecotech, and a string of high-end restaurants, including this one spot, The Hearth, a ritzy joint in a converted 19th-century townhouse. Think chandeliers, linen tablecloths, and a wine list that costs more than most people's rent. Marcus didn't come here for the Wagyu ribeye, though. He came because of a letter unsigned, slipped under his office door in Atlanta claiming The Hearth was treating black customers and staff like garbage. He didn't send his lawyers or call a board meeting. Nah, Marcus threw on a faded hoodie, some scuffed Nikes, and drove himself to Savannah to see it for himself. Walking into The Hearth, he might as well have been invisible. The hostess, a blonde with a smile sharper than a switchblade, barely looked at him. "Reservation?" she asked, her eyes flicking over his clothes like they were a personal insult. "No," Marcus said, cool as a breeze. She sighed loud, like he was wasting her time, and led him to a table by the kitchen doors, where the air smelled like bleach and desperation. No candle, no water, just a menu tossed down like it was a dare. Marcus didn't flinch. He sat, watched, took it all in the way the waitstaff fawned over the white folks in suits, the way the manager, a slick guy named Greg Warner, glad-handed the regulars while ignoring anyone who didn't scream old money. The place was a stage, and Marcus was in the cheap seats, exactly where he wanted to be. Enter Lena Carter, a 27-year-old waitress with eyes that saw everything and a smile she'd learned to wear like a mask. Lena wasn't supposed to be here. She was 3 semesters into a sociology degree at Spelman when her dad's heart attack drained the family's savings. She moved back to Savannah, took the first job she could find, and ended up at The Hearth, the only black server in a sea of white faces. The gig paid okay, but it came with a price, double shifts, tables nobody else wanted, and a manager who looked at her like she was a smudge on his polished image. Lena kept her head down, poured wine, cleared plates, and swallowed the snide comments from the kitchen crew, guys like Chef Paul, who'd laugh about seasoning the food for certain customers. She wasn't naive, she knew what went on behind those swinging doors. But knowing and doing something about it, that's a different kind of math. Marcus ordered the big-ticket item, a $600 dry-aged tomahawk steak, medium rare, with a glass of Napa Valley Cabernet that cost more than Lena's weekly tips. The whole dining room seemed to pause. Greg, the manager, shot her a look from across the floor-narrowed eyes, like, "You better not mess this up." See, The Hearth had a rule. If a customer looked sketchy and ordered high-end, you needed a credit card up front. Lena didn't ask for one. Something about Marcus, maybe the way he looked her in the eye, not through her, told her to trust him. She punched in the order, swiped her own ID to override the system, and felt her pulse jackhammer as she walked away. Greg's voice followed her down the hall. "You get his card?" "Not yet," she said, not turning around. "Then you're eating that bill if he bolts," he snapped. Lena didn't answer. She was already thinking 3 steps ahead. In the kitchen, it got uglier. Lena watched as Chef Paul, a guy with a temper and a smirk to match, leaned over Marcus's steak as it sizzled on the grill. He spat on it quick, deliberate, like it was just another Tuesday. The line cook, Joey, snickered. "That's for thinking you can afford this place." Lena's stomach churned. She'd heard the jokes before, seen plates dropped for black customers, but this was a line crossed, and she was done standing on the sidelines. Her hands shook as she grabbed a napkin from the service rack, pulled a pen from her apron, and scribbled 4 words. They spat in your food. She folded it tight, her heart pounding like it was trying to break free, and carried the steak out under its silver dome. When she set the plate down, Marcus looked up, his eyes steady, like he already knew something was off. "Enjoy your meal, sir," Lena said, her voice soft but steady. As she cleared his bread plate, she slipped the napkin under the edge of his place setting quick, like a magician's sleight of hand, and walked away, praying he'd see it before he took a bite. Marcus didn't touch the steak. He sat there, still as stone, then reached for the napkin. His fingers unfolded it, and those 4 words hit him like a sucker punch. He didn't flinch, didn't yell, just folded it back up, slipped it into his pocket, and pushed the plate away. Then he pulled out an old-school flip phone, not the kind of thing you'd expect from a billionaire, and typed something fast. Across the room, Greg was still schmoozing, oblivious to the bomb that had just been lit. Marcus stood, walked straight to Greg, and said, "I need to talk to you. Now." His voice was low, calm, but it carried a weight that made Greg's fake smile flicker. Sure, let's step into my office," Greg said, leading him down a hallway lined with framed reviews that screamed best in Savannah. Inside, Greg launched into his usual spiel: guest experience, culinary excellence, blah, blah, blah. Marcus cut him off. "Show me the kitchen cameras. Tonight's footage. Right now." Greg blinked, laughed nervously. "Those are mostly for inventory, not really for—" Marcus leaned in, his voice like ice. "Don't make me ask twice." Greg fumbled, pulled up a monitor, and started scrolling through grainy footage. Then, a glitchy 2-minute gap, right when the steak was prepped. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "You're either part of the fix, Greg, or you're the problem. Which is it?" Greg's face went pale. "Don't know what you mean, sir. Who are you, anyway?" Marcus didn't blink. "I'm the guy who owns this place. And you're out of chances." That night, Marcus didn't sleep. Back at his hotel, he sat at a desk, a glass of water untouched beside him, as his security team sent him the unedited footage from a cloud backup Greg couldn't touch. There it was, clear as day. Paul spitting on the steak, Joey laughing, and Paul muttering, "Send it to the guy who thinks he's somebody." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he didn't lose it. This wasn't just about him, it was about every black customer who'd been disrespected, every plate tampered with, every smirk behind closed doors. The footage showed more: a black couple's order accidentally delayed, a burger flipped onto the floor then back on the bun. This wasn't a one-off. It was a playbook. By morning, the hearth was a different kind of hot. Marcus's legal team rolled in from Atlanta, and 2 federal agents showed up at noon, right as the lunch crowd was sipping their sweet tea. Paul was still in his apron when they cuffed him. Joey tried to bolt, but didn't make it past the back door. Greg? He just stood there, stammering, as they led him out in front of his own regulars. The dining room went quiet, forks frozen midair, as the staff watched their bosses get marched out like they'd robbed a bank. Marcus didn't stay in the shadows this time. He stepped outside to a makeshift podium, cameras flashing, reporters shoving mics in his face. "I came here as a customer," he said, his voice steady but heavy. "I left as the owner who saw the truth. This place wasn't serving food, it was serving hate. And that ends today." He turned to Lena, who stood nearby, her hands clasped tight. "This woman," he said, pointing to her, "risked everything to tell me what was happening. She's not just the reason this came to light, she's the reason this place has a shot at being better." Lena wasn't ready for the spotlight. She'd spent the night tossing and turning, waiting for the hammer to fall, fired, blacklisted, worse. But when she walked into the hearth that morning and saw Marcus waiting in Greg's office, still in that same hoodie, she knew something bigger was happening. "Lena Carter," he said, gesturing to a chair. "You're not in trouble. You're the only one who did right." Her knees buckled as she sat her day, I thought I'd be fired, she whispered. Marcus shook his head. Not by me. I own this place lock, stock, and barrel, and I saw the footage. I know what's been going on. He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto hers. I can shut this place down, start over. Or I can rebuild it, and I want you to help. Director of Culture and Standards. You in? Lena's breath caught. You're serious? He nodded. You already proved you've got what it takes. 2 weeks later, the hearth was still closed, but it wasn't dead. The old portraits of plantation owners? Gone, replaced with photos of Savannah's Black heroes, musicians, activists, chefs who'd fed the community when no one else would. Lena sat at a desk that used to be Greg's, her new title still feeling like a borrowed jacket. Director of Culture and Standards. She wasn't just signing papers, she was tearing down the old ways and building something new. She held staff meetings, no suits, just chairs in a circle, where she laid it all bare. The spit, the delays, the culture that let it fester. Some staff quit, too ashamed to stay. Others listened, nodded, started to change. Lena set up anonymous tip lines, brought in trainers to talk about bias, hired managers who looked like the city they served. And at night, she cracked open her old sociology textbooks, studying again, thanks to Marcus covering her tuition. This wasn't just about one bad night. It was about a system that hid behind polished silverware and fake smiles, a system that counted on silence to keep going. Lena broke that silence with a napkin and 4 words, and Marcus turned it into a sledgehammer. But here's the thing, none of this was loud or flashy. It was quiet, deliberate, like a chess move nobody saw coming. And that's what makes it stick with me. Lena didn't have a title or a corner office, but she had guts. Marcus didn't need to play hero, just needed to listen. Together, they didn't just clean up a restaurant. They showed what happens when you stop looking away. So, let me ask you something. What's the napkin moment in your life? That time you saw something wrong, maybe at work, in your neighborhood, or even in your own family, and you had to decide whether to speak up or stay quiet. What did you do? And what might have happened if you'd chosen differently? Drop a comment, tell me your story. Hit that like button if this hit you in the gut, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes, the smallest movie, a folded napkin, a whispered truth, can burn a whole rotten system to the ground.